4 tips on how not to yell at your child. Hey there, I'm Charlotte with Colorful Teaching for Youth. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, when I was younger, I went out to play, and I was the first child there. Of course, I got bored because there's no one there to play with, so I ended up going to a friend's house. Now, the bad thing is I didn't tell anybody I was doing that, so none of my family knew where I was going. I'd gone there for a few hours thinking it was just a few minutes. Meanwhile, everybody was worried sick about me. By the time I got back to my house, I just happily walked in, and you bet your bottom dollar I was yelled at. When everybody calmed down, they explained to me why they yelled at me. It was because they were incredibly worried, because in my birth country where I was at that time, being outside by yourself could be a very dangerous thing for a young child. And of course I wasn't out of the community, but they didn't know where I was, so that's where I could have been. Now, that was one instance, and I understood why I was yelled at. They explained it to me. That part made sense. But then there's another instance, not there, but when I moved here to Canada, I was yelled at for everything under the moon, like all of the time. There's nothing I could do right. And I couldn't understand why I was being yelled at. And I have to tell you, over time, that just got my self-esteem to plummet. That voice became my voice. I thought I really couldn't do anything. And there are times when I still feel that way. And I still have to remind myself that that's not my voice. This kind of thing sticks with your children. So today we're going to look at how, when things happen and you are frustrated, how not to yell at your child every single time. And if you do yell at them, how to make amends for it, because that is a super important thing. And we're going to talk about a little bit more about that as well in step number 4. So let's start with step number 1. Know the triggers. So know what is causing you to yell. Know what in advance. Make a list of it. Why do you feel the need to yell? When do you feel this need happening? What's causing this? Make a list of it, because the need to yell doesn't just happen. Something occurs. There is a response to something in your environment. So you need to make that list so you know in advance. Okay? When you feel the need to yell, I want you to take a deep breath, walk away, and then follow steps 2 to 4. So step number 2 is practice self-regulation. When you're getting upset, teach your children how to self-regulate. Do it alongside them so that you're both learning how to self-regulate. They're watching, children watch what you do. They soak up that energy. And so whether you realize it or not, as you're practicing self-regulation, they're learning how to do the same thing. Okay? So practice this together. Create a calm down area for yourself and for them. And then when you're upset or you're angry, before you talk about anything, both of you separate yourselves, go to your calm down area, calm yourselves down, and then come together and have a discussion. Okay? And when you're having your discussion, we're going to look at step number 3. What you're going to talk about is, what happened, why did this happen, or the instance, the event that caused you to be upset. And then you're going to talk about step number 3 is teach about consequences. So I want you to talk about natural consequences. What happens in the environment when you behave this way? So you're going to teach them that. Okay? The only time I want you to have this discussion, though, is once you've had a chance to calm down. This may take you a few minutes or it may take you a few days. Do not have this conversation when you are angry, because your ability to be logical is diminished. So I want you to just calm down first, then talk to your child about natural consequences. What happens? What do other people see when you behave this way? How do they feel? How do I feel when you're behaving this way? And how are you feeling about yourself when, people are upset about your behavior? Does it make you happy? If not, then how can we make changes to this? Okay? Because over time, people are going to get angrier and angrier and not going to want to be around that child. And so we want to be able to teach them that, well, this is not the best way to behave. And if we behave this way, what's the natural consequence? And if it continues to happen, and natural consequences is not settling in, then perhaps we need to look at other consequences as well. Okay? So let's talk about in advance, not just I'm angry, I'm going to say you're grounded. For what? Right? The child, maybe your child just broke their siblings' toys. How does grounding them help them? But perhaps it's all right for every single time you break your brother or sister's toy, you get a toy taken away, because that is fair. Their toy is taken away, now yours is taken away as well. Okay? So we're looking at consequences for actions, and we're discussing this when we've calmed down. The fourth step is to apologize when necessary. So if you have, screamed at your child or yelled at your child, it could happen, right? I know you're practicing, but before you get to that stage, you might blow up a couple of times. And if that does happen, then how do we make amends? We do need to say we're sorry for our behavior, because children soak up the energy, like I said before. If you get angry, and you walk away because it's happened to me, and you think that they're going to forget about it, or at least you hope that, I can guarantee you they're not going to forget about it. They're going to remember two things. How did you make them feel in that moment? And the second thing is, what did you say? And if you keep those two things up, it's going to turn into their voice. And if you don't want them to turn into this, if you don't want them to yell every time too, then you need to teach them that this is not appropriate behavior. Because I can tell you, for the most part, children learn this kind of behavior, especially if they don't have anybody else to model after, and then they start to also behave in that same way. So if you've yelled at them, then take a moment and say sorry. It's not weakness on your part. It's actually coming from a place of strength. Okay? So let's look at what we've talked about so far today. We have looked at the importance of calming ourselves down instead of yelling, right, at our children's behavior. And sometimes those behaviors are just horrific, like my first behavior where I didn't say anything, and it could be much, much bigger than that, right? I've had kids throwing things. And so whatever that behavior is, how do we keep our sense of calm? Okay, the first one is know the triggers. The second is practice self-regulation. The third is teach about consequences, and the fourth is apologize when necessary. Now, coming back to practice self-regulation, if you are trying to figure out how to create that calm down area, I've got some resources in step number 2. So if you click in the description, full episode, and go to step number 2, choose a resource that works best for you, for your child and for you, and create that calm down area. It allows you to create one on a budget with the items that you already have in your home or in your classroom, and it allows you also to track and really focus on reflection as well. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. In the meantime, remember to create, experience, and teach from the heart. Take care, my friends, and I'll see you again, same place, same time next week.